There are only two types of people in this world: those who create opportunities and those who make excuses for why they can't. The excuse makers have turned waiting into an art form. They have sophisticated reasons why now isn't the right time, why they need more education, more money, more experience, more everything before they can begin. Meanwhile, the opportunity creators are building empires with pocket change, starting businesses from kitchen tables, and changing their lives with whatever they have in their hands right this sec. The harsh reality is that your excuses, no matter how logical they sound, are keeping you exactly where you are, while less qualified people lap you on the track of life. Every single morning across this planet, millions of alarm clocks go off. Millions of people roll out of bed, shuffle to the bathroom, look in the mirror, and think the exact same thought they had yesterday. Tomorrow I'll start that business. Tomorrow I'll make that call. Tomorrow I'll take that first step toward my dreams. But here's what nobody wants to tell you. Tomorrow never comes. It's always today and today. Most people are waiting for the perfect moment, waiting for more money, waiting for more time, waiting for more confidence, waiting for the stars to align in some magical way that will make success easy and guaranteed. This is the most dangerous lie you can tell yourself. The perfect moment is a myth. It's a story we tell ourselves to avoid the discomfort of action. It's fear dressed up in fancy clothes, pretending to be wisdom. And while you're sitting there, waiting for conditions to be just right, life is passing you by. Opportunities are walking past your door. Other people are taking action with far less than what you have right now. Let me share something with you that will change everything. The perfect moment doesn't exist because perfection itself doesn't exist. Every successful person you admire, every business that thrives, every achievement that inspires you, they all started in imperfect conditions. They all began before they were ready. They all took action when the timing wasn't quite right. The cost of waiting is enormous. It's not just about missed opportunities, though those are real and painful. The real cost is what happens to your spirit when you keep putting off your dreams. Every day you wait, you send a message to your subconscious mind. You tell yourself that your dreams aren't important enough to act on today. You reinforce the belief that you're not worthy of success right now. Think about the business idea you had 5 years ago. Remember how excited you were? Where is that idea now? Chances are someone else took action on a similar concept. They didn't wait for perfect market conditions. They didn't wait until they had all the answers. They started with what they had, learned as they went, and built something real while you were still planning. Consider the relationship you wanted to pursue, the career change you dreamed about, the skill you wanted to learn, the book you wanted to write. How many of these dreams are still sitting in your someday pile? How many perfect moments have you been waiting for? And how has that waiting served you? The psychology behind waiting is fascinating and tragic. We convince ourselves we're being smart, being careful, being responsible. We create elaborate stories about why now isn't the right time. The market isn't right. We don't have enough money. We need more education. We need to lose weight first. We need to get organized first. We need our kids to grow up first. But here's the truth. There will always be a reason to wait. There will always be something that isn't quite perfect. If you're waiting for the absence of fear, you'll wait forever. If you're waiting for certainty, you'll die waiting. If you're waiting for more time, more money, or more confidence, you're waiting for things that come from action, not from waiting. The perfect moment is a myth because every moment has imperfections. Every successful action was taken in the presence of doubt, fear, and incomplete information. The entrepreneur who starts a business doesn't have all the answers. The artist who creates doesn't wait for perfect inspiration. The athlete who competes doesn't wait until they're guaranteed to win. They understand a fundamental truth that waiting people never grasp. Action creates clarity. Movement creates momentum. Starting creates the very conditions that waiting people think they need before they start. When you wait for the perfect moment, you're essentially saying that you need life to change before you can change your life. You're putting your power in the hands of external circumstances. You're making your dreams dependent on conditions that may never align the way you want them to. But when you choose to create your moment instead of waiting for it, everything shifts. You take back control. You stop being a victim of circumstances and start being the creator of your experience. You stop asking life for permission and start taking action that demands life respond to you. The waiting trap is seductive because it feels safe. It protects you from failure, rejection, and disappointment. But it also protects you from success, growth, and fulfillment. It keeps you in the comfortable prison of your current circumstances while your dreams fade a little more each day. Most people spend their entire lives in this trap. They become professional waiters, not the kind that serve food, but the kind that serve time to the gods of someday and if only and when the time is right. They develop sophisticated strategies for delay. They become experts at finding reasons why today isn't the day. But you don't have to be most people. You can choose to break free from the waiting trap right now. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when conditions improve. Right now. The moment you decide to stop waiting and start creating is the moment your real life begins. It's the moment you stop being a spectator in your own existence and start being the star of your own story. It's the moment you realize that the perfect moment isn't something that happens to you. It's something you make happen. Your dreams are not requests you submit to the universe, hoping for approval. They're declarations you make to yourself about who you're becoming and what you're building. And declarations require action, not patience. They require courage, not comfort. They require you to create the moment instead of waiting for it to find you. The waiting ends now. The creating begins today. The perfect moment is whatever moment you decide to take action. Because action itself makes any moment perfect for beginning. Once you understand that waiting is a trap, the next question becomes clear. How do you escape it? How do you shift from being someone who waits for opportunities to someone who creates them? The answer lies in developing what I call the creation mindset. The creation mindset is fundamentally different from the waiting mindset, where waiting asks, what if I fail? Creation asks, what if I succeed? Where waiting says, I need more time, creation says, I use the time I have. Where waiting demands guarantees, creation embraces uncertainty as the price of progress. This shift in thinking changes everything. When you adopt the creation mindset, you stop seeing obstacles as reasons to quit and start seeing them as problems to solve. You stop viewing limitations as permanent barriers and start viewing them as temporary challenges. You stop asking why things are hard and start asking how you can make them easier. The power of action cannot be overstated. Action is like a key that unlocks doors you didn't even know existed when you take action, especially when you don't feel ready. Something magical happens. The world responds. Resources appear. People show up to help. Opportunities present themselves. Solutions emerge. But none of this happens when you're sitting still, planning and preparing and waiting for perfect conditions. It only happens when you're in motion. Motion creates momentum, and momentum creates miracles. Let me tell you about Rebecca, a woman who understood this principle better than most. For 3 years, Rebecca dreamed of opening her own restaurant. She had recipes passed down from her grandmother, a clear vision of the atmosphere she wanted to create, and genuine passion for bringing people together over food. But Rebecca kept waiting. She waited to save more money. The initial amount she thought she needed kept growing. She waited to find the perfect location. Every space had something wrong with it. She waited to complete a business course, then another course, then another. Meanwhile, she worked at a job she hated, serving someone else's dream instead of building her own. One day, Rebecca's neighbor mentioned that a small space in their local strip mall was available for rent. It wasn't in the trendy part of town. It didn't have the big windows she'd imagined. The kitchen was smaller than ideal. But something inside her said, now, instead of waiting for more money. Rebecca started with what she had. Instead of the full restaurant concept, she began with a small cafe, serving lunch only. Instead of perfect equipment, she bought used appliances and refurbished them herself. Instead of hiring staff, she worked alone initially. Within 6 months, Rebecca's little cafe had a loyal following. The limited menu meant she could perfect each dish. The intimate space created the warm atmosphere she'd dreamed of. The constraints she initially saw as problems became the very features that made her business unique and successful. 2 years later, Rebecca expanded to the space next door. She now employs 12 people and has a waiting list for her weekend dinners. But none of this would have happened if she'd kept waiting for the perfect moment to arrive. This brings us to what I call the 80% rule. If you have 80% of what you think you need to start, that's enough. You don't need 100% certainty, 100% of the resources, or 100% of the skills. You need enough to begin, and the rest will develop as you go. The 80% rule works because action teaches you things that planning never can. When Rebecca finally opened her cafe, she learned more about running a restaurant in 1 month than she had in 3 years of research and courses. She discovered what customers actually wanted, not what she thought they wanted. She found solutions to problems she never knew existed. She built relationships that became crucial to her success. This is how confidence really works. Most people think confidence comes first, then action follows. They believe they need to feel ready before they can perform. But that's backwards. Confidence comes from competence. And competence comes from taking action, even when you don't feel confident. Every time Rebecca successfully handled a difficult customer, her confidence grew. Every time she created a dish that people loved, her belief in herself strengthened. Every problem she solved made her more certain she could handle the next challenge. Action created competence. Competence created confidence. And confidence created more action. Building this creation mindset requires you to change the questions you ask yourself. Instead of, am I ready? Ask, how can I get ready by doing? Instead of, what if it doesn't work? Ask, what will I learn if it doesn't work perfectly? Instead of, do I have everything I need? Ask, what can I do with what I have right now? The creation mindset also means accepting that your first attempt won't be perfect. Rebecca's initial menu was too large and included dishes that didn't sell. Her pricing was wrong in some areas. Her hours weren't optimal. But each imperfection taught her something valuable. Each mistake moved her closer to success, not further from it. When you embrace the creation mindset, you realize that waiting for perfection is actually the least practical approach. Perfect conditions don't create perfect results. They create no results at all. Good conditions plus action create results that can be improved. Imperfect conditions plus consistent action create expertise, resilience, and eventually success. The world belongs to the people who create their moments, not to those who wait for them. Stop asking life for permission and start taking actions that demand life respond to you. Understanding the creation mindset is one thing. Having the practical tools to implement it is another. You need specific strategies that turn good intentions into real results. You need methods that work even when motivation fades and obstacles appear. You need tools that make creation as natural as breathing. The first and most powerful tool is what I call the 5% start. When a goal feels overwhelming, when the mountain looks too high to climb, you don't need to take giant leaps. You just need to move 5% closer today than you were yesterday. 5% doesn't sound like much, but it's everything. 5% is the difference between staying stuck and building momentum. 5% is small enough that fear can't stop you, but big enough that progress becomes visible. 5% compounds, and compound progress creates extraordinary results. If you want to write a book, 5% might be writing one paragraph. If you want to start a business, 5% might be researching one competitor. If you want to get in shape, 5% might be doing 10 push-ups. The beauty of 5% is that it's always achievable, but it's never insignificant. Let me tell you about Thomas, a man who transformed his entire life using this principle. Thomas was 50 pounds overweight, working a job that drained his energy, and feeling like his best years were behind him. The idea of getting healthy seemed impossible. Joining a gym felt intimidating. Completely changing his diet felt overwhelming. So Thomas started with 5%. On day one, he walked to the end of his street and back. That's it. No gym membership, no complex workout routine, no dramatic lifestyle change, just a 5-minute walk that represented 5% movement toward better health. Day 2, he walked a little further. Day 3, he added one healthy meal to his otherwise unchanged diet. Day 4, he walked and drank one extra glass of water each day. Thomas found his 5%. Some days it was physical activity. Some days it was better food choices. Some days it was going to bed 30 minutes earlier. The remarkable thing about Thomas's approach was that it never felt difficult. 5% never triggered his resistance. His mind never rebelled because the changes were so small they felt almost silly. But those silly little changes added up to something profound. 6 months later, Thomas had lost 35 pounds. He was walking 3 miles every morning before work. He had more energy than he'd felt in years. His confidence had returned. His whole life had transformed, but it had happened so gradually, so gently, that it felt natural rather than forced. This brings us to the second tool, environmental design. You can't rely on willpower alone to create lasting change. Willpower is like a muscle that gets tired. But your environment never gets tired. Your environment is working for you or against you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Environmental design means setting up your surroundings to make success easier and failure harder. If you want to eat healthier, you fill your kitchen with healthy foods and remove the junk. If you want to exercise more, you lay out your workout clothes the night before. If you want to read more, you put books everywhere and hide the remote control. When Thomas understood this instinctively, he bought a pair of walking shoes and placed them by his bed every morning when he woke up. The first thing he saw was a reminder of his commitment. He didn't have to remember to exercise. His environment reminded him. He didn't have to fight through mental resistance. The shoes made the decision easier. The third tool is the power of artificial deadlines. Most goals don't have natural deadlines, which is why they drift indefinitely into someday. But you can create urgency by imposing your own deadlines, even when they're arbitrary. When you tell yourself you'll start a business someday never comes. But when you decide you'll have your business plan finished by Friday, Friday creates focus. When you commit to losing 20 pounds, eventually becomes never. But when you sign up for a 5K race happening in 3 months, those 3 months become a countdown that drives daily action Deadlines work because they activate a psychological principle called Parkinson's law. Work expands to fill the time available. Give yourself forever to accomplish something, and it will take forever. Give yourself a specific deadline, and your mind starts organizing around that constraint. The fourth tool is resource creation. One of the biggest myths about success is that you need resources to get started. The truth is the opposite. You get started to get resources. Resources follow action, not the other way around. When Thomas started his transformation, he didn't have a gym membership, a personal trainer, or expensive equipment. But his consistent daily walks led to conversations with neighbors who shared workout tips. His commitment to better health attracted friends who invited him to hiking groups. His visible progress inspired his wife to join him in making healthier meals. The resources he needed didn't come first. They came as a result of the action he was already taking. This is how creation works. You start with what you have, and what you need shows up along the way. The fifth tool is the art of making do. Perfectionist thinking says you need the best tools, the ideal conditions, the perfect setup. Creation thinking says you work with what's available and upgrade as you grow. Your smartphone can be your recording studio, your research library, your business headquarters, and your fitness tracker. Your kitchen table can be your office, your local library can be your university, your neighborhood can be your gym. The tools you have right now are enough to begin with. These tools work because they bypass the perfectionist paralysis that keeps most people stuck. They make creation feel possible rather than overwhelming. They turn someday into today and impossible into inevitable. Having the right tools is crucial, but tools alone won't guarantee success. The biggest obstacles to creating your perfect moment aren't external, they're internal. They live in your mind, speaking in your own voice, using your own fears against you. These internal obstacles are more dangerous than any external challenge because they feel reasonable, logical, and protective. The first and most persistent internal obstacle is the voice of doubt. This voice knows you better than anyone else because it is you. It knows your past failures, your weaknesses, your fears. It speaks with authority because it has access to your entire history of disappointments and setbacks. This voice whispers things like, you tried this before and failed, or you don't have what it takes, or other people can do this, but not you. It's so familiar that you often mistake it for wisdom. You think it's keeping you safe, but it's actually keeping you small. The truth about this voice is that it's not trying to protect you from failure, it's trying to protect you from change. Your mind is designed to keep you alive, not to help you thrive. It prefers the familiar discomfort of your current situation to the unknown possibilities of growth and change. Recognizing this voice is the first step to silencing it. When you hear thoughts that discourage action, that magnify risks, that minimize your capabilities, you're listening to the voice of doubt, not the voice of truth. The voice of truth encourages you to try, to learn, to grow. It acknowledges risks without being paralyzed by them. You silence the voice of doubt not by arguing with it, but by taking action in spite of it. Every time you act despite your doubts, you prove to yourself that the voice isn't omniscient. Every small success weakens its credibility. Every step forward reduces its power over you. The second major internal obstacle is the fear of failure. This fear is so common, so deeply embedded in our culture that most people think it's natural and unavoidable. But the fear of failure is actually based on a fundamental misunderstanding of what failure really is. You've been taught to see failure as the opposite of success, as something to be avoided at all costs. But that's not how successful people think about failure. They understand that failure isn't the opposite of success. It's education disguised as disappointment. It's feedback disguised as setback. It's preparation disguised as problem. When you reframe failure as education, everything changes. Instead of something to fear, failure becomes something to welcome. Instead of proof that you should quit, failure becomes proof that you're trying. Instead of evidence of your inadequacy, failure becomes evidence of your courage. Consider this. Every successful person you admire has failed more times than unsuccessful people have even tried. They haven't succeeded in spite of their failures. They've succeeded because of their failures. Each failure taught them something valuable, eliminated one approach that doesn't work, and moved them closer to finding the approach that does. The third internal obstacle is analysis paralysis, the tendency to think about something so much that you never actually do it. This is procrastination dressed up as productivity. It feels like progress because your mind is active, but it's actually a sophisticated form of avoidance. Analysis paralysis happens when you convince yourself that you need more information before you can act. You research endlessly, plan obsessively, and prepare exhaustively, all while avoiding the one thing that would actually move you forward, taking action. The cure for analysis paralysis is accepting that you'll never have complete information. You'll never know everything you need to know. You'll never be able to predict all the variables or control all the outcomes. At some point, you have to stop gathering information and start gathering experience. Let me share the story of Amanda, a talented accountant who dreamed of becoming a freelance consultant. Amanda had all the skills necessary to succeed. She had years of experience, professional certifications, and a track record of helping companies solve complex financial problems. But Amanda was trapped by analysis paralysis. She spent months researching the consulting industry, reading books about freelancing, taking courses on business development, and creating detailed business plans. She analyzed the market, studied her competition, and calculated potential earnings under dozens of different scenarios. Meanwhile, her friend Patricia, who had similar qualifications but far less analytical tendencies, simply started taking on small consulting projects while keeping her day job. Patricia didn't have a perfect business plan. She didn't have all the answers. She didn't even have a business website initially. But she had something Amanda lacked. She was taking action. While Amanda was still analyzing, Patricia was learning from real clients, building actual relationships, and earning money. Patricia's approach wasn't perfect, but it was profitable. Her business grew organically as she solved real problems for real people, while Amanda's business remained trapped in the theoretical world of perfect plans and complete preparation. And after a few months, Tina was situated in a great honor as the top good at the American Public School in Dallas, 100%. The turning point for Amanda came when she realized that Patricia, with less preparation but more action, had built the exact business Amanda was still planning to build. This shock forced Amanda to confront an uncomfortable truth. Her endless analysis wasn't making her more prepared. It was making her more paralyzed. Amanda finally took action, but not the perfect action she'd been planning. She started with one small project for a business owner she knew. She didn't have her website finished, her marketing materials perfected, or her processes documented. She just started with what she had and learned as she went. Within 6 months, Amanda had a thriving consulting practice. She discovered that most of the problems she'd been analyzing weren't actually problems. The issues she'd spent weeks worrying about either never materialized or were easily solved when they arose. The elaborate systems she'd planned turned out to be unnecessary in the beginning and could be developed as her business grew. This brings us to the fourth internal obstacle, the belief that you need to feel ready before you can perform. This belief keeps more people stuck than perhaps any other. It's the idea that confidence comes first, then action follows. But that's backwards. Action comes first, then confidence follows. You don't wait to feel brave before you act bravely. You act bravely and then feel brave. You don't wait to feel confident before you perform confidently. You perform despite your lack of confidence and develop confidence through performance. Every expert was once a beginner. Every professional was once an amateur. Every confident person was once uncertain. The difference isn't that successful people never felt unprepared. It's that they acted anyway. Building momentum is like starting a heavy wheel spinning. The initial push requires enormous effort and produces barely visible movement. The second push is still difficult. The third push is hard. But each push makes the next push slightly easier. Eventually, the wheel begins to turn on its own, requiring only occasional touches to keep it spinning. This is exactly how momentum works in your life. The first action is the hardest. It requires you to overcome inertia, doubt, and fear simultaneously. But that first action, no matter how small, proves to your mind that action is possible. The second action is slightly easier because you have evidence that you can act despite uncertainty. Each action builds on the previous one, creating a chain of proof that you are someone who creates rather than waits. Each small success increases your belief in future successes. Each problem solved increases your confidence in your problem-solving abilities. Each obstacle overcome, the courage to begin isn't about the absence of fear, it's about action in the presence of fear. It's about starting badly rather than not starting at all. It's about choosing the discomfort of growth over the discomfort of staying stuck. Your internal obstacles are not permanent features of your personality. They're temporary barriers that dissolve when exposed to consistent action. Stop negotiating with doubt. Stop fearing failure. Stop analyzing endlessly. And stop waiting to feel ready. Start creating your perfect moment right now. With everything imperfect about your current situation,